Mike. Oh, gosh darn it.
And I think we're live, Brent.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Video Friday.
Video Friday, TLDC. Nice to see you here. Get on the live stream, Video Friday. Nice to see you, TLDC. Your community. We got a guest today. Name is Michael Tringe from CreatorUp. Gonna get creative in here. We'll come and send out your invites to all your friends. While we begin, TLDC.
Woohoo! Ladies and gentlemen, the fabulous and wonderful Sam Rogers. That was an excellent ending note there, Sam.
I was just thinking it was maybe a little high for this early in the morning. Maybe a little more coffee or a vocal warm-up would help. Sorry.
Yeah, that was beautiful. And for those of you who don't know who's in the third square today, this is Michael. And I didn't even ask you how to pronounce your name. Gosh darn it. How do I say that? Tringe?
That's right.
Right. All right, cool. And just now that we got that out of the way, I'll let everybody know that we will be getting back to them in just 1 second. I just need to do some quick announcements here. Hey, if you checked out the website lately, we've got some new stuff up there. Luis did some updates. Got some new banner stuff scrolling around and things like that. Tons of fun. You should go and check it out. You should also become a member. If you're getting value out of what we do here every single day, 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern time, 4 p.m. UK time, you should absolutely become a member. We've got some fantastic new content coming up. We're going to be doing an online event pretty soon. We're going to be doing working on a meetup in the UK. That's going to be a ton of fun. I'm not going to be able to be there, and I don't think Luis is either. But our wonderful, wonderful member volunteer, Joe Cook and Bethany, are going to be jumping in and helping us out. And anybody else that's in the UK that wants to help out with that meetup, that's going to be a ton of fun. So, we're going global. Not that we weren't already. All right. We're definitely picking up the pace a little bit here for 2018. So we're psyched about that. Hey, don't forget about the podcast. Please subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. Check it out there. It's fantastic. We have lots of great content in that space. Luis works really, really hard to get that done. So not only subscribe to it, but please leave a comment for us. That is also a great place to consume the great content of the TLDC community. And also click that invite button. Let everybody know what we're doing here. Invite your friends. Hit Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google+, wherever you like to share the cool things that you do online. That invite button will make it super easy for you to tell your network what's going on right now. And we've got 54 minutes as I use time and burn each minute away. And we're going to be having a fantastic conversation today. So not your normal Video Friday where we just geek out on video, but we're going to geek out on video in the sense of how do we use video in the classroom and training and incorporating it together with today's guest. So I'm super, super excited to have Michael Tringe with us today. Oh, did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
And I will turn it over to Sam.
Yeah, great to have you here, Mike. So glad that you could be a part of this. For folks who aren't hip to you and what you do, could you tell us a little about yourself?
Absolutely. My name is Mike Tringe, and I'm a former teacher. I taught high school English when I was just getting out of college and started a film class in Morocco, which got me excited about making films. And that's also the mission of our company, is to empower access to media education. So that started 20 years ago when I was teaching. And I have since gone through the USC Film School program, received my MFA there, have worked in the entertainment industry for over 10 years before starting this company, at agencies, studios, including National Geographic Studios, for example. And I moved into digital original content because in this industry, that's where I really saw the ideas going, the audience going. So I wanted to be ahead of the curve. And one of the challenges that I saw with a lot of the independent creators that were making content from all backgrounds was how to do that better, and how to leverage it for either marketing purposes or communications or learning, everything from planning out what that calendar is going to look like to how to sometimes monetize it, or in the case of the classroom, how to use it most effectively. Our company, CreatorUp, is a global leader in media education. We train some of the top agencies and marketing departments at companies across the world. So we offer those corporate training solutions, but we also train individuals and creatives. Most of those trainings are sponsored by other companies. But for example, we're working with AT&T in the next month or so to sponsor a training for youth in Los Angeles to learn best practices for digital content creation. So that's just a little bit about me and where I am and what I'm doing here. But I'm excited to be here as a teacher and a filmmaker and a CEO of CreatorUp.
Well, thank you. It's great to have you here. You say that so casually. We're a global leader, and a global leader. Like I met Mike a couple years ago from working on the YouTube Certified Online program, and I think, Mike, you've gone on to do like their brand partner program trainings and things like that, actually helping people not only in companies, but you said also creators figure out how to use video in general and what it works well for, how to tell stories with their content, and how to utilize all of the technology that's available these days, especially being YouTube. Although I know at CreatorUp you have trainings available in your online library about other platforms and things as well, right?
Yeah. The brand partner program in particular was geared towards agencies. And I think that's an interesting point, because even major brands and creative agencies are still figuring out what are the right best practices for making this content for audiences today. So no one's got it fully figured out. However, I would say it's pretty obvious the people that are doing it well, and to be able to study that and understand it is what our job is to how do you share what's working and why.
Great. Well, I hope you'll share a little of that with us here today. For anyone out there in the viewers today who has questions for Mike based on, experiences in the classroom or specific questions about getting your content out there, ways of using video specifically for education, start putting those things in the chat. We'd love to let your input here drive our conversation here. So, ask your questions, and we'll upvote those as well in the questions area. So I was surprised when I was just posting this to Twitter this morning to advertise for this session today. There's something like 18,000 people that you've been training via CreatorUp. Is that right?
Yeah, over time. I mean, we've been around 6 years, so we've touched quite a few people.
That's quite a few.
Yeah, that spans, all of our partnerships and in terms of companies, as well as individuals. We have an on-demand course library at our .org. So we have two URLs, our .com and our .org, and our .org has the on-demand lessons. So Yeah, I mean, that's the goal, right? Is to try to scale this education the best way that we know how.
Great. Well, let's talk a little bit about how it is that, just as conceptually, that you think of video, especially for educational uses, and maybe starting with the classroom. That's something that we don't talk about very much. We tend to focus on the e-learning, things being delivered like your online library or through an LMS or things like that.
Right.
But maybe you could speak a little bit about that.
I love this topic. It's one of my favorites, and I love to flip the script on this topic because 9 times out of 10, people think about video as something they need to make to be consumed. And when I think about video and I think about the value of it, I actually think it's the other way around. I think that across every department, whether that be English or history or math or whatever, you name it, it's more about let's get our students to be creating content, to understand concepts in new ways. And so instead of thinking about yourself as the instructional designer or the burden on you to make the content that the students are going to love, think about it the other way around. Think about it in terms of how can the students be creating content to learn and apply their knowledge and demonstrate their knowledge. And I think you'll see an immediate uptick in your classroom engagement. So that's just something I want to put out there out of the gate because I want to think about video differently and how we think about it in the classroom differently.
So what's an example of how it is that you would use that?
Yeah, absolutely. At South by Southwest EDU a couple of years ago, I was talking to a math instructor about this, and we were talking about Khan Academy and how awesome it was. And, Khan Academy, I think, is one of the breakout hits when it comes to video and education and sort of scaling that value. And he said, one of the things that I've been doing, and this is a teacher telling me what he's been doing that has worked really well in his classroom, is using that same style, right, of whiteboard problem solving that is so clear in Khan Academy, to have his students work out problems and demonstrate their knowledge to each other, right? So if it used to be like get up in front of the classroom and show everyone and sweat bullets, right? Now it's like make a video that shows other people that you know how to kind of work this problem out and share it back, right? So I thought that was a really interesting example of how a teacher had taken the pressure off and also kind of given the student an engagement tool, which is the, cell phone over the piece of paper or whatever it is, to, just kind of up the game a little bit.
And just that very idea does make some people sweat bullets. All right, Brent, you wanted to jump in there?
I just wanted to jump in real quick and just clarify something a little bit. So is when we were talking a little bit earlier about all the people that you've that have trained or that you've trained, are they teachers normally, or is it a broad spectrum of folks that take your training?
Yeah, it's people who work at companies. It's individuals who are creative professionals. Many of them are teachers or instructors or students at schools. So it is a very broad spectrum. And that's one of the first things that really shocked me when I was starting this company was we held some live workshops, and just the diversity of backgrounds of people that wanted to know this stuff just blew me away. I was like, whoa. I thought this was more for aspiring filmmakers, and all of a sudden I was like, wow, everybody needs to know this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. Everybody here in the TLDC community knows I push video pretty hard, and which is why we do Video Fridays, obviously. And I don't think everybody's quite caught on yet, but we're getting there, right, Sam? We're trying to convince people.
Yeah, well, in the learning and development community, it doesn't tend to be on the forefront of many things, which is by design and probably a good thing. We don't want to be so out in front of everyone else that they don't go the direction we're going. So there is more and more video happening. I'm teaching and training and stuff within that community. But Mike definitely has a much broader audience base, a much bigger spectrum. And it looks like folks are responding to the questions here. Please keep those questions coming. Brent, maybe you could handle a few of those.
You want me to just start going through those? We can just hit the first one. Well, the first one's been voted up.
Sure.
Want me to hit that?
Go for it.
Okay. Dana asks another one just popped up in front. Wait, man, you guys are good today, getting in on the votes, but I'm going to do Dana's anyways. In the entire creation process from start to finish, what is your best development time-saving tip?
Yeah, that's a good one. And it's also luckily an easy answer. My best development time-saving tip, and if I could get a clarification around that, I'm assuming it has to do with the script and or the bullets or the topics that are going to be hit versus production. But I think if possible, it's about bundling and bucketing that time. I mean, if you have a few hours, 3 hours to really set aside to do that work, I think that's sort of the secret of media creation. It is, how can you really create a focused environment, both in pre-production and in production as well, to get the most out of what you're doing. I've been a teacher though, and I know that really what you have are 15 minutes here and there. So I don't want to assume that everyone's got half a day to sit down and sort of plan out their content strategy. However, if it's the beginning of a semester or the beginning of a month, I think that actually is a good thing to do. And thinking about the topics from a global perspective and saying, like, let's just say you're going to make one of these a week, right? Because that's kind of generally a good rhythm. You should sit down for an hour at the beginning of the month and map out what's my number 1, 2, 3, and 4 topic going to be, right? And do a little bit of, this is probably like a project management tip, but time yourself, right? How long does it take me to either research or bullet out what things I'm going to say or cover in that video in some way? Hopefully it's not taking you longer than half an hour to an hour per video, assuming they're 5 minutes long or 10 minutes long. And all of a sudden you're basically saying, all right, it's going to take me 4 hours in a month to do my pre-production, and I can do that for 1 hour each week. But you really do have to treat it like working out or cooking or any other thing that you specifically set aside time for. It's a habit thing. It's no different than anything else.
Yeah,
that's helpful.
That's great. Kim remarks that it looks like the pre-production stage of being able to get that overview of what the pre-production will entail, of what it's going to time. That's great.
So perhaps is the pre-production, okay, another easy answer to that is if you are having trouble with the actual, so if we call that development or pre-production, if it is the pre-production that you're having trouble with, that's hopefully an even easier answer, which is you should ideally have a studio setup, which is to say that you don't move your camera, you don't move your light, you don't move your mic, so that you can walk in and do it. It's like a walk-in space or place where you can turn things on and turn them off. Mm-hmm. That's just generally how people do it efficiently, effectively. And of course, you might be changing environments, but that's all a studio is, right? Even if it's your desk.
Great point.
Yeah, that is a good time-saving tip. I had to adopt that myself just because it was taking too long to have to set up every single day. So I had to streamline things and just leave the lights up and leave the backgrounds up and leave everything up all the time. It's like putting your workout clothes on. It just takes more effort and time. And if they're already on, it's like, well, I might as well work out, right?
Right.
Exactly. All right, let's jump in and do Joe's question here. She says, I'm going to be doing videos for my community of practice. A lot of them I want to be from me as the expert. Other than a talking head video, what would be some of your go-to formats or suggestions?
Yeah, absolutely. I think with that comes my question of what sort of resources you have available to you. And also that comes in the form of money and time. I think that if you have a little bit more time, there is a tool that is really effective at communicating ideas. And I kind of want to do a deeper dive on what you're trying to create here. But Powtoons is almost like a, PowerPoint on steroids. It helps you make sort of animated explainer videos with some sort of graphical representation that are templatized. I think once you get to know that type of software, it's a very easy way to communicate ideas in an interesting, engaging way. The annual subscription for that, I believe, is a few $100s. I'll have to go back and check exactly what their rates are. That's one idea. If you're open to doing whiteboard animation, you can easily script it out, do your own voiceover, and then using a tool like either Upwork or Fiverr, you can hire that animator for sometimes $5 or $10 or $15 to do your whiteboard animation over the voiceover that you've recorded. So there's Talking Head, there's Powtoon Animator, there's whiteboard animation, and yeah, it just depends on how far you kind of want to take it. But those are a few simple ideas that I think are working. Noting that the most important thing is the content. It's like, what are you saying? What story are you telling, and or what information are you sharing? And that all has to be incredibly relevant and valuable. And if it's not, shouldn't be making a video.
Yeah, that's a great point, and one that's easy to overlook. Why is it a video in the first place, and what is the story? It all kind of rolls out. Then you can look at what's a good format, as opposed to.
If I can just compare mediums for a moment,
please.
Podcasts are fun to sort of listen to banter sometimes. I mean, I think about like the original podcast, like, I don't know, Click and Clack. I grew up listening to Click and Clack, right? And to me, that was a podcast. But what you enjoy about that is the personality and the back and forth, and like, you kind of don't care about the cars. Like, I didn't care about the car stuff, But with video, it's almost the opposite. I would say that the video has to be so specific and so valuable and useful that people just don't tolerate watching for longer than 5 seconds if it doesn't immediately solve their problem, right? Either they're searching for an answer to a question, or they're looking to be entertained or inspired, right? So if it doesn't immediately do those things, you're probably not engaging your audience, and they probably don't want to watch it.
Great point.
Yeah, I would concur. Oh, I need to stop the questioning on that one, because that was a great answer. So I'm going to click done answering and move through these. But you know what? I'm gonna drop in my own question here again real quick, and just when you So you went to film school, right? And they teach you a lot of the really cool stuff, like to make the motion picture and all of that. What are some of the best filmmaking concepts or ideas that translate pretty easily over to quick, easy video, like something a teacher would do? Like, what are some of the things that might go on, that you learned that makes a movie really great, that you can apply to just, like, say, picking up your iPhone and creating a good movie?
Yeah,
a good video clip.
Yeah. So the number one thing that I can tell you that is transferable is visual storytelling. Number one thing. And so what is visual storytelling? I mean, at its core, you could say that it's showing, not telling, right? I think that's the most important way to think about it. And for anybody here that feels limited by that statement because of, hey, I don't have time to run out and grab this or that, I'm going to stop those excuses in their tracks, because we are living in a time where you either through a library or your own investment can purchase for $50 or access to a B-roll library or a library of content. This is basically the Shutterstock, the video Shutterstock, right? And there's a lot of them out there. Video Fort is one that I know of. I'm sure there's like 10 more. The point is that if you have an idea to show something, or you've said something in voiceover that people are not watching and looking at, you can grab that from a B-roll library and show it and engage your audience in an interesting way. So that's the point. I mean, for those of us that are out there thinking, talking head, this, that, I don't want to be another talking head video. I mean, people really engage with faces. They engage, the reason that videos are popular with talking heads is not the talking head, it's the person behind it. It's the expression, right, behind that. So I don't want to throw that out the window, but I do want to say the film school point that I would bring in is, in order to take that to the next level, let's show people things. Let's engage them in a different way. And there needs to be that sort of balance, right, to keep people watching.
That's awesome. We haven't talked much about video libraries, actually. That's a great thing to bring up, much like a music library or, Shutterstock kind of image library. You might have in your own organization, the marketing approved, here's the images that we use kind of thing. Being able to pull in footage for like a annual license fee or something like that to spice it up really is very achievable and not all that expensive. And there's also royalty-free stuff out there too. And quick thing that I'll say about that, that's a question that comes up in some of my stuff too, is just make sure you do have the rights. Just because it's on YouTube doesn't mean you can pull it down and use it. That is actually infringing on somebody else's stuff when you then post it as yours. Even if that's internal to your company, it's just not a good idea to go down that road. But if it's an open library,
there is fair use.
There is fair use.
But if you're making commentary on it and it becomes something new, right? Because of your commentary, that is acceptable.
Yes, right? And for educational use, specifically in the U.S., there are some exemptions. But for the general advice I give is you are making lawyers nervous when you do this. So if you're going to go down that road, just make sure you talk to legal first. And if you don't want to have that conversation, a video library is a great way to go.
Yeah. I did see the question about time in the question box. Time that it takes to go from start to finish.
Oh, yeah, this is another one from Dana. She says, how long on average does it take you to write a script storyboard and create a video tutorial with animations that is about 5 minutes in length? Is that the one?
Yeah, so the key point that she brings up that's going to extend that is the word animations, right? Which is like this catch-all for moving stuff. I think if you take out that point, the short answer to your question is, I personally, now having, done this quite a bit, feel like 20, 30 minutes, I can crank something out. That's script to recording to editing to post. However, that does not include animation. Once you start using that word, you are adding another layer in. I'm not an animator. So I'm not going to do that. However, I'm going to have somebody help me do that, and it will probably at least take them 24 hours to turn around what I asked them to do. So, again, using tools like Fiverr or Upwork, you can do that quite cheaply, as long as it's very specific what you want and you're happy with the quality. So,
great.
Yeah, excellent answer, by the way. That we don't, I don't think we often clarify enough that word animation and in our conversations when we're talking about this stuff. But yeah, right on the money. Hey, we're at that 30-minute mark, so I'm going to let you guys scroll through the chat and talk to some of these folks for just a couple minutes while I share some of our upcoming events and things that we are doing at TLDC. Is everybody good with that?
Go for it.
Because this is just what I'm going to do anyway. Still there. Anyways, hey, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today on Video Friday with Sam Rogers co-hosting today, and our fabulous guest, Michael Tringe, the creator and owner of CreatorUp.com. Check them out. But thanks for joining us today. I just wanted to say thank you to all of our volunteers, everybody in the community that works so hard to make TLDC happen. All of the different ideas and comments and the guest suggestions that we get on a regular basis all come from you guys. And this community is yours. And everything that you send to us, please know that we are putting it into lists, taking it into consideration, and trying to keep up pace with everything that's going on. And so if it seems like you've made a suggestion and we haven't been able to follow through on it yet, feel free to just re-ping us again, or to just engage with us there. Oh, looks like we lost Mike.
I'll be back.
I think he hit a button. But anyways, yeah, thanks for engaging with us, everybody, and for sharing and for telling us, what you need and what you want, because our goal, our mission here is to provide value in all of the work that you all do in training and learning and development. And if there is something very specific that you have a need for right now, let us know, and we'll do our very best to make sure we cover that either in a TLD cast or focus on it in TLD chat, and just, give you the value that you need. But what that also means in return is that every once in a while, even if you don't need anything, you need to jump into the chat and just check it out and see if you can offer value back into the community. Be a good community member and help answer questions and share your knowledge with folks that are expressing a need and need to follow up. This community is growing so fast that trying to meet all of the requests and ideas and help just myself or Luis and myself or the two of us, some volunteers, it gets very, very difficult. And so everybody that's a part of the community needs to jump in and give us a hand. That's what the community is all about. So we're here for you guys to make this a great place for you to do professional development. And so we hope you're getting that value, and let us know if there's anything else that you need. Again, please become a member, listen to the podcast, jump into TLD chat in the Slack group, and invite all your friends. Heck, we still got a good 25 minutes left of great conversation on a fantastic Video Friday. So hit that invite button, tweet out to all your friends and your network, and let them know that we've got a lot of great conversation left to go. So all good stuff. These animation links are fantastic, and thanks everybody for dropping in the different links during our conversation. This is a great resource as well for people to find all of the resources that they need to do their work on a regular basis. So thanks again, everybody. And before we jump back into our conversation, let me just give a quick shout out and a thank you to our sponsors, those vendors and suppliers in our community who go above and beyond and sponsor us in a very strong way. Please check them out and support them. They are all fantastic. They all do great work and are a part of the community. And like we've mentioned in the past, we're trying really hard to make sure that we bring together the vendor and supplier side of our community with the practitioners, with all of you that need that work, and make a community where everybody can support and learn from each other. So don't be afraid to engage with these vendors. They are there for you and to help you do what you want to do in training and learning and development. So thanks again, everybody. Let's get back to your questions and keep talking about CreatorUp and video stuff with Michael Tringe and Sam Rogers.
Thanks. I wanted to jump in first before we get to the other questions too, just to bring in the the technology side of it. We don't usually get a chance to talk about 360 with people who are doing a lot of it, or any kind of VR video experiences. And Mike does have some of that experience as well. I'd love to hear, Mike, anything that you can share with us about how you found that to be useful as an educator, but also just in engaging learners.
Yes, this is amazing. 360 video is what I'd like to start out talking about. So we worked with an organization, a nonprofit called Digital Promise, and we documented an initiative that they had worked with Facebook and Oculus Rift to put together in the Bay Area for about 14 high schools in that region last year, teaching kids 360 video creation. And using the Ricoh Theta, I believe, which was just a small, the Ricoh Theta to get. So here's what I love about 360. It's, you know, in production, it is probably the least complicated in terms of like, well, I think so. Because I think one of the biggest challenges for people who are just getting started with video is, where do I point the camera? Right? And when all they need to do,
I always talk about framing in a regular camera, right? And how important that is, and how people get it wrong and all that kind of stuff.
So I think 360 is the great equalizer in that way, because you just need to turn it on. And you need to turn it on in different places and at the right time, and or with different action. And I also think, you know, Sam, you would love this. 360 is theatrical, right? Very theatrical. So it's really about choreography and what are people doing around that frame. So before we kind of get stuck in thinking about stitching and all that fun stuff in post-production, just, you know, handing that to Ricoh Theta to students and allowing them to turn it on and tell stories in different places that they want to, I think was really interesting. So yeah, I think that 360. So we actually documented sort of the students who their assignment was to say something special about their community, right? And this particular school was done in Oakland. And so they took their 360 camera around and they found different locations that they liked, and they talked about why. But yeah, I think 360 is a really nice sort of intermediate before getting into that heavy question of virtual reality and how to do that. And you can also experience it through cardboard and other things. So that's just a starting point.
Great. Thanks. I've never thought of it that way, of actually making a lot of things simpler. There's nothing not to shoot when you're in 360.
Yeah. I will say, I mean, yes, the sort of state that we're at right now with stitching requires an added level of skill. But you're starting to get to the point where there are some tools and technologies that are doing auto stitching. And so I think that 360, we'll call it just a proficiency bottleneck, is starting to go away. But I wouldn't let that stop people.
Yeah, and also budgetarily for people who feel like it's a stopping point. I mean, you can pick up for under $100 a 360-degree camera these days, and the GoPro Fusion, which is about $300, does some of that automatic stitching in places. You know, if you use the right equipment, like Mike's talking about. So.
Sam, I want to talk about, Kim made a question here that I want to address, because I want to share a case of something we've done in the past. So she asked, how can that apply for workforce learners? And I'm assuming that's technical skills or technical training. Kim, correct me if I'm wrong. Or workplace learners. Are you also referring to just people in the workplace? So maybe if you can clarify there. But I wanted to share anything that's not a school. Great. So professional development. Got it. Makes sense. So I think that coming back to our original conversation about video for learning, I want to share a case study that we did with an organization called New World of Work. And here's the premise. There's an assumption out there that you cannot teach soft skills, things like empathy or resilience or digital literacy, that cannot be taught, right? That it must be imbued upon you throughout life by some magical force, family or friends or school or whatever. So actually, this video series that we did in collaboration with New World of Work was innovative in the sense that it created video story problems, right? So what we did was we set up a scene and said, here's the story problem. And Kim, this comes back to your point about workforce learners and workforce learning, because I think it's very relevant, right? Because we're all in life, in the job, on the job, faced with various scenarios that are stressful or kind of test our skills, whatever those might be. Yeah. So what this video series did was we essentially created 3 different scenario answers, right, to the story problem. And the learner needs to watch through all 3 scenarios after the story problem is presented and choose what they felt was the best behavior or way to respond or things to do. But in general, I just think that that is correct, Paul, New World of Work. I think that video is so perfect for showing not just social situations, but technical things. Like even for myself, like I sat through cinematography class in film school. I had a hard time, right? Why? Why? Because they only showed you once, right? And I wanted to go back and watch it again and watch it again and watch it again, because that's how I learn. So when I created our on-demand cinematography class, that's when I learned cinematography from my friend. I was like, wow, I get it. I get, the lens thing, and I get the frame thing. Mm-hmm. So, it doesn't always, that's where I feel video is just so dynamic and so flexible as a medium for that reason. So I didn't mean to take us away from 360, but I think 360 can be applied in the same way.
Oh yeah, you can take the conversation anywhere you want to go, and I think we've got some more questions to get into. If anyone else wants to contribute questions, we've got 15 minutes left to take a few.
I do. I want to hijack it real quick here though, and actually talk about that instructional piece. How, since you're teaching people, you're teaching people video, and we can talk about all of that on it. But when and you made a great point there. The idea of re-watching things over and over again is such a great way to learn, and how you do it. So how is it when you create your learning experiences for the people that you train, what do you think through, and how do you create that experience for them?
Yeah. I mean, are you referring to the actual on-demand lesson version of it, or the workshop part of it?
I guess all of it. Yeah. I mean, I didn't realize that there was a multiple blended solution like that, but that's great to know too, right?
The short answer to your question is people have to do it. That's the short answer.
I love it.
Like that's the film school thing. It's a hands-on, like you show up, you do it, and you learn it. Like we didn't take a test. We didn't study textbooks. We didn't. We sat in class. We watched each other do stuff. Hey, how did you do that? How did you do that? How did you do that? So the on-demand or the watching part of it is a way to immerse yourself in kind of getting close to how other people do it, right? Which is useful, but until you do it, you haven't learned it. It's project-based learning for sure.
Awesome. Good to know. And I think some people in our chat might think that that's obvious, but I'm here to tell you that it's not all that obvious to a lot of people.
Well, it is easily overlooked when we're talking about instructional design, and what's the best way to present content and all of that kind of stuff, that kind of input stage of receiving, but that's not necessarily the learning part. Go ahead.
But one step at a time, right? Because here's the thing. Kim was asking, did the learners create the videos? And here's where I think people hit roadblocks. They get stuck because of the overwhelming nature of all of the tasks associated with creating a video, right?
Right.
But if you break it down, all it is you write something out. Everybody here knows how to write, right?
Mm-hmm.
You write something out. It's a bullet. You perform that in some way, whether it's voiceover or on camera. All of us who are teachers or instructors have had to do that at some point. Present, right? Here is the great news for this community. You are 90% of the way there.
Yeah.
You are 90% of the way there, because if you can write and you can perform or know how to coach someone to do that, if you're behind the camera, that's the hardest part, right? Cutting in some video pictures and you know, like getting to know the software or working with someone who does that. I hope that's not the part that's limiting you. But if it is, let's fix that problem. Let's solve that problem, right?
Yep.
Where I think people get confused is they're like, you know, well, I don't know the technical stuff, but it's more about like, actually where video is really bad is when it has poor writing and poor performance of some sort. That's where it's really bad, right? Then the lighting and the sound thing, that's like also, we got to make sure that's good. But the worst stuff is the stuff that makes no sense.
Right.
Yeah. I think we do. Sometimes when we have these conversations about the different elements like that, we have those conversations in sort of a silo. Like we'll just talk about lighting, or we'll just talk about audio, or we'll just talk about script writing or pre-production. And then when everybody does start to mentally put together all of these things, I think you're right. I think everybody gets really, really overwhelmed. And to simplify it for everyone and try to break it down into those smaller chunks, and then learn as you go, right? The first time you ever click that record button, it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be great, but you never really know, and you never really learn from it until you hit that button. So you got to just do it. And that, you know, that, which takes us back to the other answer to your, you know, instructional methods, right? Just get people to do it and to learn from it and to learn from their peers that are also doing it.
Here's the best exercise that I can give everybody here if they haven't already done it. I will assume that most of you have written a blog post in your life, right? I will assume that probably at some point you've been asked to write something for a newsletter or for your own. Take the content from that blog post. Get yourself a teleprompter app, right? On your phone or on your computer, and read the content, right? Read it out on camera. Do that. Try that. And if that doesn't get you kickstarted on like best practices for how you're going to get to, you know, the finished product, I mean, it's a starter point that gets you over that barrier of what is this thing that I'm making? Because that content, if you wrote it, is interesting. And if you're the one saying it, it's also going to be interesting. So that's just like a starting point.
I sense another homework assignment for the community.
That's great. Thank you for that, Mike. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, let me jump into another question in the Q&A part of this here. Craig asks, as personal devices become more popular and replace desktops and laptops, how will digital media adapt over the next 5 to 10 years to keep up with that shrinking real estate, i.e. the screen size and the viewing size?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. But to me, the more relevant question, and I don't want to put this one to the side, is how will we adjust to our attention spans? Because to me, the size of my phone is sort of irrelevant. What is not irrelevant is the amount of time that I have to sit and watch something. Yeah. And I think that's where all the fragmentation is starting to happen. However, I'll bring it full circle for that point, which is that, and I think you might like this answer. Theaters are immersive, right? You walk into a theater, you turn your cell phone off because you have to, because they tell you to. Where we are going, I believe, is back to an immersive environment. Believe it or not. Mm-hmm. So we're kind of in this weird state where we pay attention to some things and there's like 6 devices, but I think there's There's going to be, like, with the headset, people are going to be wanting to sit through something that's 10 minutes or 15 minutes. And the reason I can say that is people are already, the myth of like short content is kind of going away. People do want to watch that longer content, and something immersive is even more so because it doesn't lead to those disruptions. So I think, to answer your question, think about it like goggles, right? If the goggles have just been like this, we're going to have like more goggles like this that allow us wider field of view.
Yeah, and to determine what it is that we see within that environment. And yeah, that creates a whole different level of engagement when it's not being curated by the producer of the content in the same way.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm rolling through some more questions. Everyone's dropping in some great ones. Kim's got a good one here. For business and professionals, what is the one thing that learners need to know that they are the most resistant to? Oh, so in your training of folks, what is it that you feel like people tend to push back on the most, or find the most difficult, or just don't think they need?
That's great.
That is an easy one. That is an easy one. Nobody wants to be on camera. Nobody wants to be on camera because it's how I look, and there's identity issues, and there's all this stuff. It's the hardest thing ever, and everyone's getting older, right? Myself included. Yeah. So it's, you know, you see yourself and you want to see yourself in a certain way. And here's the thing. I think that people also think that they already know how to be on camera, right? Or if they're over that fear wall, and they don't. It is, you got to practice, right? So I think the most successful session that we had at a school was we set up a camera and we just practiced performance, and I directed people. And from start to finish, people came on and they were umming and shy and don't look into the I can't look into the camera, right? Just, it was a mess, right? And by the time each person went on, they were talking to their audience. They were saying things confidently. They were articulate, right? And not every video is a talking head. Fine, I get that. But if you're not on camera, probably you're coaching someone else to be, or something of that nature, and you need to know how to do at least that, right? So everyone gets stuck on the technical stuff, but I mean, quite honestly, like, what are people watching? They're watching other people most of the time, or at least voice performance of some sort. So,
yeah, nicely said.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And we've already got the Twitter handles in there. Great. I think somebody dropped your CreatorUp Twitter handle in there. So we've got that one. And what are we looking at for time? Well, we're actually down to about 5 minutes left. So maybe we should just do a wrap up here. You got a good final question for him, Sam, that he can hit?
One first. There's some great apps that are getting shared in the chat right now. Mike, I'd be curious to hear what it is that you like or tell people to use just for the simple phone version of a teleprompter.
Yep. I'll take a look at the phone version. I haven't used that one in a while. I do use the Teleprompter Pro, I believe, for our camera stuff. But I'll have to take a second look at the phone one. But I think there are some pretty easy, simple ones that you can use. And by the way, in using a teleprompter, you do not need to read word for word whatever it is that you wrote. Some people use a teleprompter to prompt them on points, which is a nice way to kind of keep things feeling organic. Because I'm not recommending a teleprompter so that everybody goes out and reads paragraphs. I think that in general, it's a nice way to kind of cue up what your topic you're going to talk about. Because what you don't want to come across as a robot, right? So if you can even just have those bullets streaming and say, or even a non-moving teleprompter, something that you can just see, like a cue card. Go back to the cue card days, right? What are the bullets I'm going to hit? You can glance over and see that.
Yeah, that's a great point.
You know, I was going to ask too. I mean, we do geek out on tech all the time. So let's just wrap up with some tech questions real quick. Like, what's your favorite? Like, do you have any, just like a quick rundown of a favorite app or a favorite camera, or, you know, from a gear perspective? Let's just to appease the gearheads that are maybe in the chat.
Sure. I'm going to be boring and say my Zoom recorder. Use their Zoom. Do you talk about Zooms here all the time?
Yeah.
Which model do you use?
That I'll have to go back and check. We're always getting the latest and the greatest, but probably the I'll check it out. I'll go back and look and see what we're using today.
They number them, right? And so you're probably using like the 6, or I don't even know if they have a 7, like an N6. And I know you can get like used N1s. I don't even know if they make them anymore, but they're really, really cheap. But they still they work as a great sort of backup little audio device I've seen people use before.
Yeah, and if Zooms are great for your lavalier recording and that sort of thing, or if you're gonna plug in a boom mic and sort of bring in that boom over top. I guess I have a question about that. Do people boom themselves, or do they mostly do a lavalier? How do you guys like to roll? I'll just tell you, I like to boom. I do.
I like extra hands and somebody that can man that pole and do the boom.
No, get a mic stand, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
Get a mic stand, put your boom out, and then to me that's your studio, because I don't like to lav up. I don't like to put the lav on and take the lav off, and it looks bad. And I like to go stand in a place or sit in a place, and the boom is there. I know it's going to get good sound, and I don't have to move it. So that's a boom connected to a Zoom that I can sit down and just have it look like I'm just having a chat, right? There's no tech. Doesn't look like there's tech.
So you need a room with a boom that's a Zoom, and you're good to go.
Your beatbox to that. I want to see
No, that's perfect timing, because we're going to have to say goodbye. But so we've thrown up some websites and some links. Are there any other places where people can find you, Michael?
Yep. Feel free to reach out, Mike at CreatorUp.com. Would be happy to set up time to chat. We do trainings for organizations, companies, schools, individuals, and we also create content. So if you are just like totally done with the DIY, we can help you out with that too.
And for the gearheads that didn't get enough of reviews of stuff, I put the link to the YouTube channel for CreatorUp out there as well. They do some great reviews of tripods or cameras or some of the 360 stuff.
360 stuff. Yeah, my co-founder, he is super into 360. He's cutting edge. He's like one of the best, and he reviews all the latest and greatest 360 gear.
Cool.
Very cool. Good to know. Well, I don't really have much to wrap up on today, other than to just say thank you so much, Mike, for being here and being our guest today. This was a fantastic Video Friday. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for having me, and just honored to be a part of this community, and I look forward to coming back for the next one.
Yeah,
sounds great.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. So, I'm going to go ahead and close your video out there, Michael, but you'll still be in the chat here, and you can say goodbye to folks in the chat window and whatnot.
Okay. Sounds good.
Awesome. Thanks. All right. Good times today, Sam. Thanks for getting us connected with Mike and having him here today.
Well, it's nice that this community, the TLDC community, has grown to such a level that I can bring folks like that in. And we've had a couple great guests lately, every day of the week, and I'm looking forward to some more. Luis had some fantastic announcements about like Kathy Moore coming and stuff like that. We'll have some more cool Video Friday guests coming up soon. So gaining steam.
Yeah, we are. We're growing fast, and it's fun. And like I said during the break, you know what, everybody, we couldn't do this without you, and I certainly couldn't do it without the community support and everybody that helps. And Sam, thank you so much for doing Video Fridays and hanging out with us. And so with that, I will say goodbye, and you can sing us out today. Everybody have a great weekend.
And today we learned how to read the script like a robot. Like a robot.
No, we didn't. We learned that everything is better when you pre-produce, write well, and produce something engaging on the screen. You know what we mean. TLDC. Catch you next week. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you real soon.
Goodbye.
Thanks, Sam.
You're too kind. Awesome. You're too kind.
That wasn't for you. That's for Paul. I throw the gong in because Paul requested it once, and now I just can't stop.
That's good. I can't make a good gong sound. Thanks for that. See you, everybody.
Everybody have a great weekend.